Okay, welcome to the June metrics meeting, everyone. If you want to go ahead and grab a seat or find your way to the comfort space. Okay, so today is 29th of June, and I think the first slide up. Do I advance it? The theme of today's meeting is the future of the Wikimedia movement and movement strategy. You've been participating all over the world. People have been participating. Today we're going to be hearing some of the stuff coming from the tracks that we haven't been as much participating in, as well as from the discussion coordinators who've been working to have those conversations throughout the world. So our agenda will include our usual welcomes, movement update from Maria, community conversations around movement strategy from our community presenters, and new voices research coming to us from Caitlin and Adele, as well as the next steps for strategy moving into now cycle 3 of phase 1, which actually has some extensions. So I will share that with you at the end before we do Q&A and some Wiki love. So we have some welcomes. We have Keith in Tech Ops, as well as David in Community Tech, who have joined as rec numbers, as well as a few interns and some contractor volunteers coming on board. James Hare and Niharka on my learning evaluation team, as well as Wendy Chu in legal, Abel Asrat in community engineering, Peter in product, and Margarita coming to join us on comms. Actually, fundraising and advancement? Is that correct or wrong, right? Yeah, okay, she's in comms. Okay. Okay. Welcome, yes. We also have lots of anniversaries to celebrate. We have Kaldari and Chad, who have come up on 7 years. Jonathan or JMO and Victor and Seddon all hitting their 6th year. Adam White, Peter Combe, Toby, Keegan, Erica, Patrick, all hitting 4 years. Enjoy the extra vacation days with that one, I think. Papau, Elliot, hitting their 3rd year. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff. And then a whole lot of people with their 2nd year, Max, David Strine and David Koss, Leanne, Sarah Malik, and Peter. And then, of course, Delphine reaching her first 1-year anniversary at this time. So congratulations, everyone. So this is when Maria will come up and share the movement updates and hopefully be introducing our community members.
Hi, I am Maria Cruz. I work in the Community Engagement Department. And for movement update, this time we're going to go with foundation highlights first. The 2017 movement strategy has finalized cycle 2 of conversations, and we are debating the 5 themes that emerged from cycle 1. The Wikimedia Foundation versus NSA case got a standing in our suit against the NSA, which means that we can move forward to the next stage in the case. The code of conduct was published by members of the Wikimedia Tech collaboration teams and volunteers. This is a code of conduct for Wikimedia Tech spaces. And finally, the Wikimedia Foundation staff marched at the San Francisco Pride Parade, and we got a recognition for our work to promote free knowledge, to support free knowledge. Yay! Coming up in July is Wiki Women Camp in Mexico City, July 6 to 9. It's a conference that brings together volunteers who identify as women from around the world to engage in discussion around the gender gap on Wikimedia projects. And there will be a remote week for the Wikimedia Foundation, July 24 to August 4. Foundation staff can participate in remote work in this time. And for community update, we have community conversations around movement strategy. And today, a few people will be presenting the work they have been doing. So we have first, Marco Correa Pérez. Marco, ¿estás ahí?
Hello. Yes.
Marco
Hi,
is the
everyone.
president of Wikimedia Chile.
Yes, I've lost the slides, please.
Yes. No? Marco, we pass to the next slide. Can you see that?
The strategy process in Spanish. Well, I have been working for the foundation as a uh, contractor, coordinating the strategy process on the Spanish-speaking community. And of course, my main focus is the individual contributors, the track B, but I also have been supporting the other tracks in Spanish, the organized groups, and the new voices tracks, uh, for having more voices in Spanish in the whole process. If we can see the next slide, please. And one of the working we have done in the track A, the organized groups sessions we held at IberoConf 2016. For those who don't know, IberoConf is the regional conference for the IberoCop initiative that this is a group with user groups and chapters from Latin America and Spain and Italy. And the conference was held in Buenos Aires, June 10 to 12. And in that conference, we, along with Jorge Vargas, we led two strategy discussions. We talk first about the whole themes. We divided the participants in 5 groups, and the themes were every group was seeing one theme, and then the participants selected the most important ones, the most important themes, and then we discussed in the final session of the conference the challenges we have as an Iberocop, but also as the foundation, in relation to the most important themes for the participants. So this was one of the work we have done in the track A. I also have supported Wikimedia Argentina, Wikimedia Chile, and the user group from Colombia to publish their results on Meta. Next slide, please. In the work we have done in the New Voices track, in Wikimedia Chile, we wanted to participate in the process as a chapter, not only with the opinions of our members, but also serving as a vehicle for engage Chilean experts and know what they think about the process and the movement. So we asked for funding to the foundation for having a meeting in Santiago de Chile with different experts in the fields of GLAM, education, and public policies. And we have 8 experts and 6 Wikimedians. We worked with these experts. And next slide, please. So in this meeting, we divided the whole session in 2 main blocks. The first one was a conversation about the future of free knowledge. We asked the participants to answer 2 main questions. They were first, how do people access information today, and how will they do in 2030? And second, how the institutions are preparing for the future. This main theme. Then after a break, we ask the participants to choose the most important themes. We have 5 kinds of sticky notes you can see in the photo with different colors. So the participants chose uh, the most important for them and wrote why it was the most important theme. And then we have the discussion with the second block of the future Wikimedia related to the most important themes they selected. And finally, we had a final message from every participant to the Wikimedia movement, and it was published on video in the source page of the meeting. So next slide, please. Well, the outcomes of these two sessions I have spoke. First, the openness and the diversity of the process has been highly valued. The participants considered a big progress that the foundation have this different voices involved in the process, as different or compare with past strategy processes that they were more closed. And the second result of these two conversations, of two sessions, was that the most participants considered the theme A, healthy and inclusive communities, as the most important. And the second one was the theme C. They considered that having a healthy community is a core element to accomplish the rest of the other themes. So, well, that's the main conclusions I have. The source page are published in Meta, and well, thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Next up is Yvonne Cristiani. She is Deputy Chair of Wikimedia Indonesia. Yvonne?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. So I'm Yvonne Cristiani. I'm the Deputy Chair of Wikimedia Indonesia, and I would like to share our experiences for conducting the strategy discussions in Indonesia. So we have done several activities. We've done online surveys. We've done one-on-one expert interviews, and we also took the opportunity to conduct our local strategy plan by hosting a panel discussion that we called External Outlook. And we will also conduct a movement strategy salon on July 11th. Next slide, please. And here are some of the key themes from the online surveys that we found from the respondents. First and foremost is the improvement of Wikipedia's quality and quantity. So if we use English Wikipedia as benchmarks, the Indonesian Wikipedia is still far behind, and this is despite having 281 speakers. And in addition, we need to also pay attention to the quality across languages. There are hundreds of local languages spoken in Indonesia, among which around 8 have Wikipedia, but the number of articles and contributors are still way behind the Indonesian Wikipedia. And another thing is there is an increasingly pervasive government censorship and filtering that works by blacklisting domain names considered harmful, but this sometimes ended up with blocking sites that are not harmful. And on the other hand, there's Wikipedia's, while being free from the censure, have a privileged position in providing and disseminating verifiable knowledge to the public. And the second concern is about the verifiability or trustworthiness of the projects, especially Wikipedia, since there's a concern of the spread of hoax news. And Wikipedia is not immune to the scrutiny of the perception of the public. And there's we need to work hard in building the credibility of the project in the minds of the people. And the third point is there is a low awareness of how Wikipedia works in Indonesia. So many people doesn't know how Wikipedia works. And while the last is about inclusiveness, there need to be an inclusivity in our engagement strategy. While right now the contributors' demographics are mostly high school or college students and mostly men. And while Wikipedia is open to everyone, it's not yet reflected on the demographics. And next slide, please. We've also conducted one-on-one expert interviews. We've interviewed 10 experts in education, technology, NGO, and governmental sectors. And here are some of the interesting insights. First is on data visualization. There is a trend of visualizing raw data to have a look that is grabbing attention. And there's also a tendency to provide tools to interact or play with data without the necessity to understand programming, technical programming language. And all the while, some of them claims that Wikipedia's user interface is unattractive and is too text heavy. And second is on awareness. There is a huge readership base in Indonesia, but again, mostly most people don't know or understand that they could contribute to Wikipedia. Many of them still think that there are paid writers, editors behind Wikipedia, so they still assume that Wikipedia is working with the old publication model. While those who knew and aware that everyone can edit Wikipedia saw this as weakness instead of strength. And this is especially true among academics and university professors who are suspicious of if their students are using Wikipedia. And while this is a huge potential area, but instead the perception is that Wikipedia is not authoritative or legitimate enough as a source. Again, there's a misunderstanding of how Wikipedia works. And last is on information retrieval. In the past decade, the model of information retrieval has greatly changed, and people could easily type their questions on Google. And Wikipedia is in the position to play a big role since it always comes up first. However, this is not accompanied by quality content, at least on English Wikipedia. And next slide, please. And we've also took the opportunity to host a panel discussion to discuss about Wikimedia Indonesia's local strategy plan. And we invite 3 panelists to talk about 3 big topics. These are fake news and online media and big data and digital knowledge, and also the implementation of open education in Indonesia. And next slide. Next, we will hosting a movement strategy salon on July 11th in Jakarta, and here are the lists of some of the invitees. And I think that's it from me. I'll pass it on to Thomas.
Thank you so much for presenting.
Yep.
Can we have...
Hello.
Next up is Tomasz, President of Wikimedia Polska. Tomasz, you're up.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I am accepted being President of Wikimedia Poland. I am also of Polish language contractor for strategy process as well. But I'm just going to say about this Wikimedia meeting with experts today. So it was organized roughly 2 weeks ago, and it was made. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Then it was organized in Czerwony Wieprz restaurant. There were 14 experts plus 3 Wikipedians. We invited roughly 20-something experts, and 14 of them indeed agreed to join us. Next slide, please. And we just wanted to have the variety of experts. So 2 main groups were people from GLAM institution, with which we cooperate or we are going to cooperate, NGO people from generally open knowledge NGOs who do something in open knowledge, and some other people, 1 journalist, 1 former politicians, 1 scientist, and contemporary female artist who wanted to stay anonymous. Next slide, please. And this is how it looked like, more or less. Yes, people were just at the beginning sitting at the table, eating dinner, talking informally at the beginning, and then we just started doing official stuff. Next, please. Next slide. So the agenda was first the presentation about strategy process and where we are now. I have given short briefing about what it's all about. Then it was dinner and informal talks, some people knew each other, but some not, and were curious simply about each other. So it was probably added value to them to talk to strangers. And then it was general discussion about 5 teams because this was made during the cycle 2, and it took too long, around 1 hour. And then we forced people to split into 2 groups and decided which teams from cycle 2 they are most interested to them. And we just figured out that there were one group which was mainly focused on say quality issue of Wikipedia, and second team which was more about the cooperation with other entities and some social issues as well. And then after quite long time of 2 hours talking this smaller group, it was coming back together for final conclusion. Next slide, please. Next slide. So the outcomes is quite extensive. I mean, roughly 30 or something statements, but I am just stressing here what really surprised me personally. So one of the things was said by Piotr Sydiński, who is former Wikipedian, and at the moment he is a CEO of the Auschwitz Museum, and he still edits from time to time, but not very frequently at the moment. So he had a comparison how the Wikipedia looked like in, say, 2005 to 2007, how it looks like now. And his idea was that now he has a feeling that the people so afraid of trolls and hoaxes that they create a very negative atmosphere in Wikipedia, and it's really not a good idea because whatever you do under fear is always counter-effective. And then this anonymous artist said that indeed she agreed with him and said that it probably get rid of many young people who start editing, and she sees that Wikipedia community is at least Polish Wikimedia community is aging. Next slide, please. And this young people team was quite extensive in both groups. But the second group, which was mainly focused on quality issues, were discussing mainly some kind of contradiction between neutral point of view and verifiability. And one of the things which surprised me was this Waldemar Kuczyński point of view. He's a former politician, and he said to us, because he was very interested in what's going on about Wikipedia in countries where the Wikipedia was banned or is banned, and he said that sooner or later we must decide if we want to be 100% NPOV in these countries or resign from writing about some taboos which triggers the blocking of Wikipedia in those countries, which was immediately contradicted by Jarosław Lipschitz. He is very much a person who is engaged in open knowledge community, and he said that no, the big advantage is Wikipedia is actually that it's ongoing, never-ending dispute about everything. And if we block something, so it means that we are losing the point. And then interesting also point of view was given by the journalist Sylwia Czubkowska and scientist Mirosław Filiciak, who was saying that they see at the moment in Polish Wikipedia and in English as well that is a general danger of anti-intellectual democracy attitude. I mean, removing the real scientific point of view by some crappy point of view, and they were stressing such situation like with anti-vaccine the issue which is going on in Poland and in US, I guess as well, when some people say that the vaccine is wrong and they are removing the good scientific proofs that the vaccination is actually good for people. The threats, next slide, please. And then when these two groups joined together, so the main theme was again about the new young people, and Marcin Wilkowski, who is doing a lot of the projects together with teenagers, he said that what he observed is that the teenagers accept that neutral point of view is much more important to them because they don't care if the let's say the Wikipedia content is really well sourced and very strictly okay, but more important for them is if it's neutral. And they trust Wikipedia just because it's neutral, not just because it's well sourced. So then next slide, please. And lesson learned, I was asked to give you this. So first of all, the variety of people in one room makes discussion really fascinating. People start to discuss about each other, but then it's pretty hard to stop this dispute between them, and it started to be not only about Wikimedia strategy, but also about, say, Polish politics and some other not very well connected with us topics. So then we have to push them really hard to stop talking about other issues and to concentrate on strategy. And then the many outcomes are really surprising. I was just showing them those outcomes which are most surprising for me personally. But if you want to read more about it, so there is a link here showing a lot more of outcomes from this meeting. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomas. And with this, I pass it to the presenter of New Voices Research Findings from Movement Strategy, Jorge.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jorge Vargas, and I work for the Partnerships and Global Reach team, heading all of our work in Latin America. Today, I'm going to talk to you about something very exciting that has been happening for the past months and is within our movement strategy discussion and process. We have been incorporating new voices to the conversation. So many of you would ask, what are new voices? And by new voices, we mean experts, we mean thought leaders, we mean partners, we mean allies, but we also mean people around the world that are not necessarily participating of the movement, but that one way or another are influential for our work. In order to do this research, we defined 4 different methods. The first one being one-on-one interviews. So we've been scheduling interviews with experts, thought leaders, partners, and so far we've done 96 interviews in Africa, Middle East, Asia, Latin America, North America, and Europe. And all of these interviews have been talking and giving us a lot of perspectives about Wikimedia, the movement, where people see us in the future. We also did design, survey, and desk research. So we conducted research, design research in Brazil and Indonesia. For that, we worked and partnered with Reboot, which they're here today, accompanying us for the process. And we also conducted survey and desk research in the US, Russia, Japan, Spain, France, Germany, and the UK. Besides this, we also have something very exciting, which we already heard a little bit about from Marco, and are the events. We had events bringing all of these new voices together and just have an open conversation over lunch, over dinner, over drinks. And we split that in 2 parts. We did some events that we organized, the foundation organized, and we did these workshops and salons in India, in Mexico, in Nigeria, in the US, in Germany, and in Belgium. But the most exciting part is that a lot of affiliates across the globe are also engaging in this process, and they're organizing their own events, as we saw previously. So far, we've had events in Chile, in Cote d'Ivoire, in Poland, and we have plans to keep this going until Wikimania. So far, we have plans for Mexico, Bolivia, Venezuela, Brazil, Nigeria, Indonesia, Nepal, Israel, UK, India, and they're going to keep coming. So isn't that amazing? So new voices, who are the new voices? Here are the new voices. These are people around the world that are discussing and talking about Wikimedia and what's their vision for 2030. Just around, you can see pictures of the events in Nigeria, the events in Mexico City, the event in Cote d'Ivoire that they created this really cool T-shirt with a Wikimedia 2030 logo in the back. These are the people that we're talking. We're talking with people around the world that are not necessarily in the movement, but that are one way or another related to us, and are voices that are important to define where should we be heading. These are more pictures. These are the cool pictures, the cool T-shirts that I mentioned with this Wikimedia 2030 logo. We see pictures of the Poland event, the Mexico event, the Chile event that our Wikimedians already described. And finally, these are some pictures of the design research that we did. So here are some of the pictures of the people that we talked with in Brazil and Indonesia. We talked to students, we talked to experts, we talked to teachers, we talked to mothers, we talked to parents, we talked to everyone that in one way or another are engaged in learning and in education. And for that, we interviewed over 100 people in areas that are urban, peri-urban, and rural, with people that were semi-connected, fully connected, or completely offline. And we learned a lot of things. So all of these new voices have been giving us a lot of information that we're still processing. And we're trying to get some findings out of that. So here's the exciting part, and I'm going to let Adele and Caitlin talk about those findings now.
Thank you, Jorge. Uh-oh. Okay, so let's talk about findings. We are still, I think, like just for all of you to know, we have got a lot already, and there's more to come, right? Caitlin is here to represent that. We still have survey results coming, more interviews, and more events coming in. But this is the consensus findings that we have to date. So we are starting with knowledge sharing is highly social, and you already like are hearing that, and you probably know that. And I'm just here to confirm that, right? Like the new voices are telling us that's where the world is heading. The youth, the people that are going to be our users and readers and consumers and donors and part of our movement, they're using social media space, messaging apps. They're using the internet to replicate their social connections. So the word to mouth type of behavior that we used to see now are migrating to WhatsApp, Facebook, Messenger, right, and other like other applications and properties that are not necessarily based in a mobile in a internet browser. So this is a really significant change to us, and we are hearing from people that our users or the readers that are now today using Wikipedia are not really the users and the readers that will be using the content or seeking that information in the future. And now people are not trusting the institutions to create their information. They are trusting individuals. They're trusting digital influencers to create the content that they are consuming. And it's less about going somewhere, right? Going to a browser and a destination to find that information is more about using your social networks and the space that you are, relating to your networks and the people that you know, and finding the information there. They are creating that information and they're bringing that to you, right? So that is the digital influencer trusted influencers and content creators that are bringing content to our users. Then here we see that technology, right? It is really a means to an end, and it's a key factor in meeting the changing needs of our readers, creators, institutions, and society as a whole. We see that coming from the less aware, less established markets, but we see that a lot coming from the more mature, established markets, and I want Caitlin to represent that.
So we're hearing from GLAMs and other institutions that they see us as an essential part of preserving their content and their collections and furthering their missions. And they're asking us, nearly begging us, to please take a more engaged, active role in that. We've heard from technologists that we need to keep pace with changing consumption habits. And they're asking us to look to today's 15-year-olds about how they access and they produce information to assist us in predicting the needs of that cohort in 2030.
Yes, and And then the next finding is movements are built on emotion and human connection. And I don't know if you all felt it, but like really hearing, right, the affiliate-led salons, the events, hearing like Jorge's energy coming and reporting on that, I think we were really like feeling that, right? This is a process that really really embodies a global movement, and that's what people are telling us. We need that emotion, right? We need that factor that really makes us feel that we belong and we are achieving something together, that we are actually impacting the whole world, right? And we are seeing that is a call to us. And I think that also like is coming up in the discussions in terms of we need to actually be able to communicate better of like how the Panti is using this expression, how the sausage is made, right? Like when we stop at anyone can edit, people that and we have felt and seeing that happening on the ground, the trust goes down, because if we stop there and you don't really explain the value of anyone can edit and everything that is behind that, all the values that are behind that, and the rules, and the responsibility and the mission that really drive every volunteer that is participating in our project, they don't really trust the model. But once you really explain what is this all about and what is it that we stand for, then we can recuperate that and we can engage them and we can have this feeling, the emotion that they need to feel connected to us. So this is really, really amazing and important. But I need to move on. So here is that as learning platforms evolve, we need to think beyond the encyclopedia. And this means that the young people that we talk to, the 15, 16 years old, they're telling us we need modular, short, compact, curated content. You have a lot, but it's really hard for us to make sense of this lot of information, right? We need something that really gives us what we need in no time. People are leaving the area of in no time, right? We need things now. So it's really the speeding up, making things modular, compact, and short to be able to address them. And I think we also know, right? Like there are things in encyclopedia Western format that are challenging, right? Like what do we do with the cultures and countries that are preserving their history through oral history, for example, right? Oral traditions. We need to think about that, and maybe all those things are not going to fit in encyclopedic format, and we need to be able to have that conversation. They're asking us to have that conversation. So this one, there is a trade-off, right? And people are telling us, okay, you're telling us that you want your credibility, you want your project and Wikipedia to be credible, and how about inclusivity? How you do both? How you have projects and a movement that can, yes, be credible, but also be open to new people coming in and joining you, and they're asking us to reflect on that, right? How you do this, and I think there is what they're telling us is that inclusivity and new representation can be only forged on lower barriers to entry, right? The perfect is the enemy of good needs to be in our mentality here, right? So then we can open the doors for participation if we're really truly trying to be inclusive, really truly trying to be global and welcoming, without letting the credibility off our minds. Yeah. Okay. So the next one is Wikimedia should be an influencer in shaping world policy for access to knowledge. We talk a lot about, right, like the open, the free, and people are telling us, how about the access? How about really thinking about people that are not served? How about thinking about the new voices, but the underserved new voices? And how about Wikimedia really stepping in a leading role to solve those problems? We need you. We want you, Wikimedia, in this space. And we have been having those call to actions for more participation and active participation from across the bases, right? Like in well-established markets and lower awareness markets. And I want Caitlin to add even more flavors to that.
So what we're hearing in the salons, the WMF run salons, and in our one-on-one interviews is that being open in and of itself is a political choice. That being open isn't standard and it isn't average. So even if we think we're being neutral, we're not. A couple of direct quotes from the interviews. A leader in the open movement said, quote, "We need to be able to take positions. This could mean that some people decide to leave the movement." Someone slightly more removed from our world said, quote, "We need more tactical organizing around real-world concerns. The open movement feels disconnected from populist concerns, too jargony and insidery, a lot of exclusionism and reverse snobbery." So people have different opinions about how we should take a leadership role. And we'll have to weigh those opinions against all of the information that we're collecting, that we already have, and as Adele mentioned, continues to roll in on an almost daily basis. But regardless, the recurring theme over and over again is please take a leadership role. People really want to work with us, they want to partner with us, but they really want to know, where do we stand?
Yes. And now we're going to move on to a more nuanced perspective, right? Where the new voices are actually differing, right? What are we seeing that is actually different from across the globe?
So one of the things we're hearing that is different, that there's disagreement on, or just lack of consensus, we're hearing it much more we're hearing this theme: emerging technologies could radically change access to information. We're hearing this a lot in markets where we already have a lot of awareness and a lot of penetration. We know 14 years is an eternity in technology. We don't know what the world will look like in 2030, but we know it won't look like it does today. Current tech is going to continue to grow and evolve, but tech will become prevalent and ubiquitous that we haven't even begun to imagine just yet. There's a brief that was just released, it's Thursday, so Monday, that will go up on Meta very shortly, from one of our desk research partner. Some of the highlights from the brief, I'll just read to you. So, quote, "Improvements in AI will also drive the rise of real-time personalized education, information, and entertainment services, including machine-generated music, news, and narratives. Natural language processing will continue to improve, which will in turn improve voice-driven applications and platforms." And this last piece, like bot-driven interfaces, virtual reality experiences have the potential to change users' expectations about how, why, and where to seek out news, information, and entertainment, and how they will interact once they do. We also know, Juliet heard in a conference she was at just a couple weeks back, that bots are increasingly being used by governments and fake news sites to spread disinformation and influence public perception. And that's something that obviously we're deeply concerned about. And that the other thing that we're hearing a lot is that a lot of these emerging technologies are only for consumption right now, like virtual reality. But at some point, we anticipate that some subset of them will be participatory. And the question is, will we be prepared to use those technologies when that happens?
And I think what it differs from our from the new voices in more of the emerging markets is that they're not there yet, right? Like they see, yes, the technology is coming, but there's so many barriers still to access that there are other needs that needs to be met first before we are thinking about all this cutting edge technology.
Cool. And the second and final, overarching theme that we're seeing a big disparity around is that privacy and anonymity are still relevant. We haven't, you may have noticed that we really haven't talked too much about those in any of the presentations to this point. In emerging markets, we're seeing that people are migrating to platforms and services that are not as concerned with privacy as the Wikimedia movement is. This meets users' stated needs. They want to know who's behind the content, as Panthea said. They want to know how the sausage gets made. They want to know the humans behind the information. On the flip side of that, across all markets, we see activists and intellectuals who are concerned and care deeply about privacy and anonymity. They see it as a form of protection, and that's not a commonly held opinion amongst users. So we know as Wikimedians that expressing oneself freely on certain topics puts people at risk in times. Those who have seen the importance of privacy have urged us in the interviews and in the salons and through written feedback to continue to press our position here. They would like us to remain a leader so that users can continue to freely contribute to the projects and safely express themselves. In the emerging world, there's some interesting factors at play, including digital literacy or lack thereof, and the conscious or unconscious acceptance of risk in this space. So it's very likely that this, in some form, will play into either in a spoken or unspoken way into our work moving forward. We know that we have work to do in this area.
All right, and now, right, like cycle 3 is about engaging with these findings, and we really want to encourage you. I hope we really we try to really show all the richness of these findings, and we're seeing yesterday that the truly global movement is one of the leading themes in terms of the discussion with the staff. So I think you are already you are already interested in this, but I really would encourage you to really engage even more and join this conversation, right? Like learn more about these findings. This is all going to be posted. It's all like on Meta, and come and talk to us. And yeah, join the party. Come and join the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us, is this working? Yeah. This brings us to the strategy next steps, which are, there's actually a new proposed timeline. You might have seen it announced in Catherine's message last Friday. We have extended cycle 3 through Wikimania. Previously, we had the goal of presenting the final direction at Wikimania and having that decided before. Based on a lot of input and feedback we've been getting from across all the tracks, especially our organized groups who are working to host these conversations in their local spaces, we've been pushing a little too quickly, and people need time to synthesize what we've been learning. So as Adeli just shared, we're really focused this month of July on digesting the New Voices research and bringing it into the context of what we've been hearing with the 5 themes. So starting this weekend, actually later today, we should be seeing it start to appear on the wikis. We'll be focusing on weekly prompts to sort of have provocative conversations where we're seeing challenges in the synthesis across the tracks. So this week's prompt is going to be actually focused on how do we keep our communities staying relevant in a changing world. So with some of the things we've been hearing, we hear like the youth of today, which we're supposed to look to understand where we need to be in 2030, interact with information and exchange information differently. They go to platforms they're most familiar with and they like to share there. So how do we meet our goals of bringing people along with information at the same time deal with this platform difference? The other sort of provocative point there will be how do we actually deal with the sort of bandwidth changes that we're seeing? People want snippets of information answering their specific questions rather than long form encyclopedic text. And so these are challenges that we're hoping to hear folks really start to brainstorm and think about as we bring the information from the New Voices research into where the movement's been talking about growing in terms of the 5 themes. So please engage with that content as it comes up. Obviously, there'll be a new theme and a new challenge question and prompts each week, and those will actually come along with a little story of a persona so you can sort of experience the world through someone else's eyes as well as you take on the problem solving. In August, we're going to be sharing that strategic direction with the drafting group, of course, working through July to take the information coming through these conversations weekly into that draft, and we'll have more information on that in the coming weeks as well. But that will go all the way through Wikimania, so we'll actually have workshops going on during the Wikimania event as well, and of course online through the month of August. so that we're ready in September to sort of enlist people to sign on to the future strategic direction and get that sort of endorsement and support at that point. So people are pretty happy overall with this extension. They feel like they've been heard, and we're happy that we're able to work something that really feels like it's a better process and a better model, so that we can continue the good work that we've done almost 6 months now, right? So beyond that, it's time for us to move on to the questions and discussion. So as usual, if you have questions to ask any of the speakers, please line up over at the microphone. Of course, if you're online, we have someone monitoring the IRC. You can post your questions there, and we'll bring the mic around to the right person to give you the answer.
How about now? Yeah? Am I amplified? Excellent. All right. We do have one question that came in from IRC earlier. This is a question for Yvonne. Matt asks, what are the most read language Wikipedias in Indonesia?
So the most read language is Indonesian, besides English. So I think first is English because, and the second is Indonesian, while the other local languages are really dropping low in terms of readership. So yeah.
That was the only. Oh, wow. Okay. That's better. Thank you. And that was the only question that I have from IRC so far. If other people watching the video have questions, please put them in IRC and I will pass them on. And otherwise, let's take some questions from the room.
Hello, just to jump in quickly, yesterday we had a brown bag with Pantia Lee, principal of Reboot and our partner for the research for the movement strategy and new readers and editing project as well. She's here, so in case you were not able to make to the brown bag and you would like to ask questions to Pantia and Zach Brizon, they are here. Feel free to do so. They're expecting that, so we're not putting them in the spot.
Hello? Okay. Oh, if there are no questions, we can go ahead and move on to, I know everybody's favorite part of this meeting, and share some Wiki love. So think about what's gone on this last month. Who's really been there for you, helped you out, or what have you seen that's been inspiring? Who do you want to thank? The microphone is, of course, over there.
Hi, this is Leila from research. So we are running this study on why we read Wikipedia. We started this last year, and we were going to repeat it for 5 languages starting a week ago. And then 9 more languages volunteered kind of for the study to run in those languages, which meant at least one volunteer from those languages had to go through hours of work with us, doing the translations, doing one-on-one basically interviews with us for us to make sure that the content is exactly translated the way we want it to the language, but also doing all the coordination work with the community, their corresponding community. It was a tremendous amount of work. On our end, it's our job. On their end, it's volunteer work, and I really greatly appreciate that, both the volunteer work and also the chapters that were involved. Just quickly calling out the languages in case they're listening in. Arabic, Bengali, Chinese, Dutch, English, German, Hebrew, Hindi, Hungarian, Japanese, Romanian, Russian, Spanish, and Ukrainian. Thank you very much for all the work you did.
Hi there, Zach from Communications. I wanted to thank all of the people who work so hard at the end of our fiscal year. So the finance team, the people that work on the wellness reports, which I just find incredible. Elena, you're amazing for processing those and answering questions and giving us 3 times to ask you questions about them. So I just wanted to thank those people for doing those things at a very busy and stressful time. Thank you.
I don't know if he's joining us from his summer holidays, but I wanted to thank and give some wiki love to Dario Taraborelli. We recently secured a grant from a new institutional foundation. They're very young, but they have a lot of potential, and they're super interested in open data and the research that Dario and his team are doing, and not one specific thing, but all of the things. And Dario came to New York and was spectacular in this meeting and completely wowed these people. He knows everyone, and when they couldn't think of someone's name and said, oh, we talked with these people that do this open data thing, and Dario was able to say, oh, you know Seth. So he absolutely rocked this meeting, and they're super excited to start working with us. And there's a lot of potential in the relationship, so I just wanted to say thanks to Dario.
A couple of pieces of Wiki Love. Thanks for everybody who helped make the Pride March happen with our team. That was really fantastic. And also, we were just a couple floats behind a group from another country that is currently having some trouble with Wikimedia and Wikipedia being able to get logged in because their country has shut it off. And they stopped by and said, oh my God, you know this is happening? And I was happy to be able to say, oh yes, our legal department is on it. So thank you, legal, for everything you do as well.
Well, we have them online, so I really want to thank Marco, Tomas, Yvonne, and all of the community members out there that are actively engaging with the strategy process. They've been incredibly helpful. They've been amazing in just not only organizing, participating, but also sharing all of that knowledge that they're gathering back with us. So, Marco, gracias. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Tomas.
Hi, I'm Adam. Forgive me for being cheesy, but I just wanted to thank all the presenters for making this really exciting and much less like status updates, but more like invitations to be involved in very engaging and fun conversations. Thank you.
Just quickly, thanks to everybody, if you're on the call or not, for helping out with training modules, translations. I set out to the community 3 months ago trying to get 585 messages translated into 9 different languages, and we're almost there with a few of them, which is ridiculous. So thanks to everybody who's helped with that.
Okay, so if there aren't any more Wiki Loves, I would just give a Wiki Love shout out also to the finance and talent and culture team who are working, I'm sure, like mad to do all the end of year adjustments. And of course, Wiki Love to all of the people who have so earned them. Thank you for joining the meeting. I believe lunch is in the back. Thank you.